Today, we do another instrument pattern practice flight, and we have another Beyond the Checkride for you. So I hope you enjoy episode 75 of the Student Pilot Cast. We have that extra foot.
Chandler Tower, Cherokee 4121 Tango is at Chandler Air Service. We have Zulu, and we'd like a south departure, please.
What does it say to be an angel? Where does the
Welcome back, SPC listeners. We've got another instrument practice flight for you today, and a Beyond the Checkride segment that we obviously hope you're going to like. While I'm thinking about the Beyond the Checkride, please let us know what you think of the new segments. More importantly, what topics should we cover in the future? Those of you who have run into a situation where you thought to yourself, why didn't anybody teach me this? Reach out to us and let us know what it was. We love stories as much as the next guy, and if you hadn't noticed, we like telling them too. And we want to use yours if we can. You can reach out to me at bill@studentpilotcast.com, and we can't wait to hear from you. We'll include this week's segment, which is about some tips and things to think about when securing an airplane when you're done flying, especially when you start going places away from your home airport. But we'll include that after the flight. First, let's get to the flight. By the way, you may hear a third person on this flight. We had a stowaway, all right, I guess it was just a backseat passenger for the flight. He was another student who was about to start his instrument training and had asked to fly along to start getting a feel for what the training would be like. And since I was just starting to, it seemed to make sense. So as my instrument training was continuing, we had another flight to do some more instrument patterns. These were supposed to be a little more complex than the first ones, but we kind of forgot about that until partway through. So I'll get to that during the flight when we get there. Again, if you didn't hear the previous flights, these instrument patterns were designed to get me, quote, in the cockpit, if you will, under the hood, and getting more used to using my scan and controlling the airplane just by reference to the instruments. Remember, this was all pretty new to me, so practice was certainly needed. So as usual, we'll start with the weather and we'll go from there.
Factor Armies Tango, time 14540, wind 0408, temperature 8, dew point -6, altimeter 3026. Use approach in use, runway 4 left and right use. Attention all aircraft 5G nodes in effect for Falcon Airport. For further information, contact flight service frequencies. All arrivals contact tower 124.6, advisors contact, you have Tango.
Okay.
Full right, good takeoff, up to 92, 0 full. Oscar 7119, runway 4 left, clear touch and go. Complete.
So 329er, hold position. Pattern is full at the moment. Probably be like a 10-minute delay. Did you want to wait, or do you have another request?
Okay.
We'll try.
Brakes are working.
Test
329er, contain texting.
Go out this way, right? Yep. You can just hold short of spot 5. Yep.
We'll continue taxi 329er.
Okay, so with the weather in hand, we could start our taxi toward the movement area and then make our initial ground call to get a taxi clearance.
Red Rock 91. A firm. Falcon Ground, Red Rock 91 is at spot 5 with like a south departure, and we have Tango.
Red Rock 91, Falcon Ground, right 4, right, taxi Delta.
All right, we'll taxi to 4 right via Delta Red Rock 91. All right, when we cross the ramp, we can start our instrument cockpit check. So when we're out of the ramp and into the active area. Okay. Yep. So you're going to hit left rudder. See that? Oh yeah, perfect.
Falcon Ground, right 4 right, taxi Delta.
4 right, taxi Delta.
Now we check airspeed indicator, reading 0 as it should be. Attitude indicator within 10 degrees of the horizon.
I mumbled there.
Altimeter.
64217 for 4 right.
Affirmative, 64217.
3026. 3026.
Thank you.
3026 is set. Got it. That was the current altimeter for Tango? Yes. Okay. Within 75 feet of field elevation? Yep. Yeah. There we go. 210 within 30 degrees of each other. Perfect. RPM's good. With that, inclinometer's working, and then a clock.
All right, now we do the run-up and get ready for takeoff.
Flight control. Free and correct.
Falcon ground,
Throttle
Oxford
2000.
6978 at spot 5, chain lead departure with Tango.
Oxford 6978 Falcon ground. Behind
Alright,
the
Carb
full
heat.
right, taxi Delta.
Magnetos first, but
Oh yeah. Mags.
Find the traffic for right
Drop.
via Delta.
Back
Oxford
up.
6978.
Same drop. Back up. Amps. Gotta be
so
over here,
amps
right?
in op, so we check the volts, so above reading 0, so 15,
Yep,
good.
15.1. Vacuum. There's no vacuum.
No vacuum.
Oil and fuel gauges.
No
Green,
pressure,
green,
oil temperature's
green.
rising. Pressure is good.
And throttle to idle. And it didn't die on us.
Cool.
Good. Back to 1,000. Alright, GPS. Want me to put like Chandler in there or something?
Yeah, you can throw KCHD.
Yeah,
you
like
go.
glare.
Yep, KCHD, perfect.
I can't see it at all.
No, you're good. I'll just hit enter. And it's activated.
It has some sort of cover on it. It's making it glare.
It's just there. Is that better?
Yeah.
That's my reflection or my shadow.
Transponder.
Should be 1200
1200.
VFR.
Okay.
That's what I was squawking last night.
Yep. Before takeoff brief. All right, so we're going to be taking off from 04 right. We're going to be doing a normal takeoff. We have initial altitude of 3,300, basically.
37 on the way out.
3,700. Field elevation is 1394.
Hey, firm.
With the density altitude that we have here, we should definitely be off the ground by the time we get to taxiway Bravo.
Yeah, we have a little bit of extra passenger in the back, so it might be a little further.
I was going off of gross.
Oh, okay.
So,
perfect.
all right, and so if anything happens before we reach Bravo, we're going to stop on the brakes.
Perfect.
Going to stop. If we are below 2,394 feet and something happens, we're going to go forward, shallow turns.
Perfect.
We are going to keep a sterile cockpit till then, no checklists, memory items only. And let's see, we're going to be on a right pattern, right? So we'll go out to the south that way.
Right.
All right, best glide is 79. And I'll be under the goggles shortly after takeoff.
Yes, you will be. I'll just kind of vector you around.
All right. Any questions?
I do not have any questions.
Anything to add? All right. All right, so we're done with the run-up, and we headed over to tower frequency, and we're waiting our turn. And something strange happens. The number one airplane, or the one that's at the front of the line, gets asked by the controller if they were number one. And I guess they were assumed from that they were cleared or something. I mean, they must have not listened or heard what he said, but that was not it, or even close. So listen to this exchange. I'll let this go until after our own takeoff.
I just said trim it out, and you did.
Tower number 1 at 4 right, correct?
4 right, close, takeoff, 329.
That's not what I asked, just put your You're number 1, verify number 1 at 4 right.
Affirm, 329.
He wasn't even listening.
Short running 4 right.
Okay, we'll push out, 329.
Did.
I assume he cleared me.
45 Delta, contact ground.
Yeah, 45 Delta.
Citation 8 Charlie Bravo, cross runway 4 left at Charlie. Traffic turning Archer about a mile and a half final. Taxi park via Echo this frequency. Good day.
Alright, crossing 4 left at Charlie, taxiing to the ramp on Echo. We'll stay with you, 8 Charlie Bravo.
Cessna 329er, right turn approved, runway 4 right, clear for takeoff.
Right turn approved, 4 right, clear for takeoff, 329.
Falcon Tower, Cherokee 2361 Romeo, AJ arrival, requesting full stop. We're parking on the north with information Tango.
Cherokee 2361 Romeo, Falcon Tower, roger. Fly to midfield, downwind, right traffic, runway 4 right.
Midfield downwind, 4 right, right traffic, 2361 Romeo.
What's that?
9610.
Oh, I thought he was going to ask us number 2. I think he knows by now who we are, though.
Yeah. We're broadcasting it. I'm going to do the before takeoff, so fuel pump on. Landing light on. Flaps are up.
Chandler approved, traffic
Door
parking is
secure.
going to gateway, runway 4 right.
Before takeoff is complete.
4 right, clear for takeoff, up to 9610.
Foxtrot 2384, go to 124.6, please. Oxford 719, runway 4 left, cleared, touch and go, and then left go traffic approved.
4 left, clear touch and go, Oxford 7119.
Oxford 609, number 2, runway 4 left, clear touch and go, left go traffic approved.
Number 2, 4 left, clear touch and go, left close traffic, Oxford 6339, thanks.
Citation, H. Bravo, change to a monitor 121.3, please.
Oh, monitor 121.3, Charlie Bravo.
Falcon Tower, Oxford 2384, at 4 left, holding short at 4 left, ready for departure.
Oxford 2384, Falcon Tower, stand by. Radar 53, turn right at Charlie without delayed traffic inside a mile final, hold short, runway 4 right.
Right on Charlie without delay, Radar 53.
Falcon Tower, Red Rock 91 is holding short of 4 right, ready to go.
Red Rock 91, Falcon Tower, runway 4 right, clear for takeoff, traffic ahead to Chandler, southbound approved.
All right, clear for takeoff on 4 right, southbound approved, Red Rock 91. Cool beans. Take off a little later today, with a little extra airspeed.
Yep. All right.
Falcon Tower, Sky High.
Engine instruments are green.
4 right, Delta 1 ready.
Airspeed is alive. There's 60. We're going to go a little higher. There's 70.
Falcon Tower, fly straight out, runway 4 right, clear for takeoff.
Straight out, 4 right, clear for takeoff, 6427.
A little bit heavier today.
Oxford 9610, the main instructions continue straight
Very
out.
nice.
Continue straight out, you'll call out 10, Oxford 9610.
Cherokee 6 Romeo, traffic 1 o'clock, 2 miles, southbound of Gateway, Cessna case 2,900.
Traffic in sight, Cherokee 236 Romeo.
So 329, traffic 3 miles southeast, northwestbound, Archer case 2,400, heads in sight.
Looking for traffic pictures.
Very easy, 99 Victor Echo, hold short 4 right, northbound.
All right, I'll take controls. You can throw your hood on.
Approved, traffic 4 miles southeast, northwestbound, Archer case 2,400.
Your controls.
I got it.
Right 10 approved, we'll be looking for the traffic, Oxford 9610.
Red Rock 91, continue straight out, and do you have the Seminole heading to your left, higher in sight, they're in the right turn now?
Do you see him?
We don't have that traffic we're looking for, but we'll continue straight out, Red Rock 91. You have controls?
I got the controls.
Isn't that traffic right in front of us?
Straight out, 4 right, clear takeoff.
Cliff takeoff 4
just-
right, fly straight out 9
Yeah.
Victor.
Oh, I think that's him right there, that's Seminole.
Red Rock 53, holding short 4 right at Charlie.
There's another guy off to our left. There he is. There's one Diamond Star. The
Cherokee
Seminole's up
6
there.
Romeo.
Yeah, see that guy.
And instructions, fly over midfield, cross the runway, cross the
All right,
runway.
you can take the controls.
And join,
I've got the controls.
All right, and
left
continue
traffic
flying
runway
straight out.
4 left, follow a diamond and left crosswind and downwind.
Crossover runway for left traffic, 4 left, and follow Diamond, 226 on Romeo.
Red Rock 91, right turn approved.
Right turn approved, Red Rock 91.
Says the 217, traffic Archer heading to your right, should be making a turn.
Want me to turn to 180?
Yeah, turn to a 180 for now.
Off of southbound, follow them, right turn approved.
After
Right turn
3,700.
approved, we'll follow him, 207.
RV 235 Pop Sierra, Falcon Tower, flash shoot out, runway 4 right, clear for takeoff.
RV 5 Pop Sierra, fly straight out.
Red Rock 53, stand by.
Stand by.
And you'll keep us in between.
Offer 2384,
All
follow
this
coming
airspace.
departing
Yep.
ahead and make left traffic, runway 4 left, clear for takeoff.
Left traffic on runway 4 left, Oxford 2384. For takeoff, Oxford 2384.
Very easy, 9 Victor Echo, left turn northbound approved.
On course approved, 9 Victor.
Offer 119, runway 4 left, clear touch and go.
Left clear for touch and go, for 7119.
Cherokee 61 Romeo, the other Archer heading to your left, Christian, the Diamond heading to your left and
Let's
side.
go to 185.
We have the traffic in sight, 61 Romeo.
Cherokee 61 Romeo, number 2, follow Diamond, they're touch and go, runway 4 left, clear to land.
Number 2, clear to land. Following Diamond, 226 Romeo.
Falcon Tower, Oxford 3373, holding short for runway 4 left, ready.
Oxford 373, follow coming departing to make left traffic, runway 4 left, clear takeoff.
You come right, heading 200.
200.
Traffic, 4 left, clear for takeoff, Oxford 3373.
Red Rock 53, again, thanks for your patience. Crash runway 4 right at Charlie, contact ground, good day.
There you go.
Cross 4 right at Charlie, contact ground, good day. Production 3.
Okay, so if I didn't say it already, we'd be heading to the south practice area again to do these instrument patterns. So we'd head that way and get started on the patterns.
Let's just head out a little bit more out here to get away from everyone, and then you can start your instrument pattern.
Okay.
And before we do that, we only have a minute left before we hit the timer, so I'll throw your fuel pump on.
Okay.
You can switch tanks.
Switching to the left.
And throw the fuel pump off. Always check the fuel pressure. Still good.
Still good.
And we'll do ours heading
79 over
south. So let's turn left heading 180.
Southeast, southeast.
Left heading 180.
And when you're established 180 at 4,000, you can start your instrument pattern.
Okay.
And let's do it at 100 miles an hour.
Okay.
Southeast Practice Area, Sky 63371 over the Wichita, headed towards the cap 3005 on your last call, southeast.
South practice area, Rock 91 is at west crop circle, 4,000 simulated instrument turns. South. All right. Good deal.
And so our first one.
First leg is 1 minute.
Southwest practice area, Skyhawk 64217, Fabtual, going to be going west 3,500 feet.
20 seconds to go. 30 seconds.
Southeast practice area 2646, 3 miles east of Central Arizona College at 4,000, Lazy 8, southeast practice area.
Alright.
Southeast practice area 2741 is entering the gap, last call southeast.
And go.
Alright. I'm going to have you hold this heading just for now.
Okay.
Because of traffic.
We'll stay right here.
Yep. And when you're... Don't mind the timing on this leg. I'm going to let this guy pass us, and then we're going to continue on.
Got it.
And you'll restart from there.
Southeast practice area, southwest 39, 4,500, 2 miles to the northeast of the Witch's Hat, headed southeast bound. Headed southbound to southeast practice area.
I'm looking for him. Lucas, you see anyone off our right-hand wing? Same altitude as us? Oh, I see him.
Southeast practice area, 2679.
Alright, see that white dot over there?
College 5,000.
You're right.
Yep, there it is.
Alright. Alright, now you're good to continue.
Alright, we'll continue the turn to 1315. 315, sorry.
Sorry about that.
Alright. At standard rate. Altitude. More than standard rate.
Southeast practice area, Oxford 1010 is 6,500 feet over Sectom Peak, headed westbound towards Auction, southeast.
A lot more sensitive than a analog
Engage,
inclinometer.
Southwest practice area, Sun 806, just north of Firebird Lake, 4,500. We're going to inbound.
100, 4,000.
Money.
0 radio and 2 standstills. Southwest.
Alrighty.
Oh, I gotta start my timer. 30 seconds. And we're gonna go to south. Yeah? Oh, north.
Looks like it. Well, if you're, yeah, because we started
North.
south,
Yeah,
so you're
'cause
going
we
to head to
started
north.
south.
Doing good, Bill. Staying ahead of the airplane. Always on your timer, watching your headings, watching your airspeed, doing your scan. I can tell you're not fixating or using omission on one of your instruments, so it's good.
As you say that, I start to go right.
Don't get complacent. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. You suck.
One thing I would like to see you, though, I haven't really seen you check the engine instruments too much, so once in a while I'll take a glance at those. You start your timer?
I did. Oh my gosh, I thought I did. I hit it, but I must have reset it.
All right, you have about 30 seconds left in this leg.
All right. Gotta check my equipment too, I guess.
Oh yeah.
Then we're gonna be turning right. 45.
Southeast Pax area 2679, 2 miles to the west of Coolidge Town, 4,500, tracking towards Coolidge Airport, southeast.
Southeast Pax area 2739 over, second on peak 4,500, headed southbound, practicing basic attitude instrument flying, Southeast Pax area.
Actually going. All right, 45 seconds.
Southeast Pax area for 2781 is about 7 miles northeast of Florence, maneuvering at 5,000 southeast.
Should end at 2 minutes on my timer.
Southeast Pax area 2659 is in the gap, last call, southeast.
Okay, here's where my instructor finally reminds me that these patterns were supposed to have speed changes included in them to start making them more complex. Oops. Okay, so we started adding the speed changes, and you'll hear that conversation here.
Let's start doing the change to approach speed and all that good stuff.
Oh, yeah, I wasn't even reading that.
South of Coolidge Town.
Normal cruise, what do we call that?
100.
Headed towards
And then after that turn, after this next 180-degree turn, you're going to change to 90.
Got it.
Then 100 again.
But hold the altitude, right?
Yep.
Okay. All right, we have 20 seconds. And we are going to be going 180 degrees to north. Now. We want to slow it up.
After the turn.
After the turn, okay. Okay.
I got a little fast on that.
Yeah.
Slow it down to 90. We're going to go on this for 2 minutes.
Probably going to be around 1900, right?
Yeah, that should give you a good control performance for 90.
About a minute 45.
2729, are you headed to the gap?
Right there.
We're doing some unusual attitudes. 279.
Alright, 70810 Alpha Tango, we're heading to the gap, southeast.
We got you in sight. 279.
Thank you.
Final to 4,000.
Yep.
Southwest practice area, Oxford 4263 over the north test
Yeah,
track.
picture, for altitude.
Turn southwest.
Sorry.
Oh, you're good. Never mind. I know you know what you're doing. There you go.
All right, about 30 seconds.
Southeast practice area 70810 Alpha Tango over the Wichita.
Oops, went the wrong way.
Last call, southeast.
Gets a little harder when you're trying to maintain speed. And, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Going to the south.
Southeast practice area 823 on the Johnson Range.
Chasing it a little bit.
Heading to south, southeast.
Yeah, I can tell you're kind
All
of
right,
chasing.
2 minutes.
Southwest Practice area.
Where are we going? Are we on this leg? So right turn.
So it should be a right-hand turn.
Last call, southwest.
Right turn to south.
Southeast practice area, Oxford AC90 over BP random.
And when you reach,
heading towards Forest Junction.
when you reach south, you're going to go back to normal cruise setting of 100. So just maintain 90 for now.
Oh, not quite yet.
Southeast Practice area 2752 is 12 miles to the north of Coolidge Town, headed towards Coolidge. Southeast Practice area at 5,500.
Oxford 1593, you up?
Southwest practice area, 65453, over Maricopa Mountain, climbing for 5,000 for 5,500 southwest.
All right. I'm going to take the controls from here.
You got the controls?
Yep, I'm going to take the controls.
Oxford 1593, you up?
All right, good job. There's some traffic that I wanted to avoid.
Sure.
All right, time to head home again. So we'll take you back over Chandler's airspace on our way back in.
All right, with that, good job, Bill. All right, take me back home.
All right, I've got the controls.
You got the controls. Let's get the weather so you can hit COM 1.
Here's your parking use. Runway 4 left and right use. National aircraft 5G numbers in effect for Falcon Airport. For further information, contact flight service frequencies. All arrivals contact tower 124.6. Advisors contact. You have Tango. Factor information Tango. Time 14540. Wind 0408. Temperature 8. Dew point -6. 3026.
Alright, let's make a left-hand turn to go to Chandler.
Falcon Airport. For further information, contact flight service frequencies. All arrivals contact tower.
Did you already do it?
Yeah.
You have Tango.
I couldn't see it because this.
I know.
Factor information
We have Tango.
Do you want me to go down to 3,300?
So 20 miles out, we got the first call. At 20 miles out, we got the weather. 10 miles out, we're gonna get the first call.
Yes, sir.
And then after that, we'll continue on the before landing checklist. So over at Chandler, you can make your first call when we're 10 miles out from Falcon.
Just South Maricopa Mountain, maneuvering speed turn, southwest.
I'm gonna, yeah. Let's slow ourselves down to 90.
Southwest practice
Give ourselves a little bit of traffic separation.
65453 over Maricopa Mountain, eastbound back to Chandler at 5,000 feet southwest.
Factor is 323, 4,000 feet over Mr. Volcano, southbound, stall southeast.
Alright, looks like they're going into Chandler, so that's no factor, so you can speed back up to 100. And you can throw in KFFZ on your GPS.
Over farm.
Okay, give me 1 second here. I'm at my altitude.
Your lookout below, southwest.
Alright.
Southeast practice area 2752 over the town of Coolidge at 5,500 southbound, southeast practice area.
Southeast practice area,
Obviously don't follow that line because it'll take us to the Bravo.
Yes, sir. I'll stick going over Chandler.
Yeah, let's go 1, zoom in. There we go. Perfect.
Southeast practice area 2739.
Good job, sir. Good ADM.
Which is at 3,500 southeast. Southeast practice area, occupant AC-90, 2 nautical miles.
So Lucas, what he's doing has been basic attitude instrument flying. This is the beginning of instrument course, so this is what you're going to do. You have to fly a lot of patterns, and he hasn't looked outside once since we've taken off.
This is south of Maricopa town, doing some slow flight, southwest.
How many lessons is in flight or in instrument?
This is my 4th. Oh.
There's like 23.
23, gotcha.
But this is lesson 4.
Where do you do a lot of instrument training, like down at the Stanfield?
Yeah, Stanfield VOR into Casa Grande is a lot of approaches.
Gotcha.
But for this is the first level, just going to kind of get used to instruments, and then the next step is approaches and all that.
Yeah, I haven't even started that yet.
All right, sir, you can switch over to 124.6. It's always good to listen in. There you go.
United X-ray tower, runway 4 right, not 4 left, runway 4 right, clear to land.
Clear to land, 4 right, 29 X-ray, turning base.
Mark 1125, tower straight, runway 4 right.
That direct button's sticky.
4 right,
There we go, nice.
Straight to 4 right, Oxford 1122.
Right, Delta 8 first, 9832.
King Air 5 Romeo Bravo, traffic mirage on our right base. Fly straight out, question eastbound approved,
It's a
runway 4
drone,
right.
I think.
4 right, go take off eastbound.
Tango, right? Yep.
5 Romeo Bravo.
Also, taxi Park View Delta.
Taxi Park View Delta, action 9832, have a good one.
You're going to say 10 miles to the south, inbound, full stop with
Tango.
Yep.
There's a 2 Lima Alpha,
Remember to look over here once in a while.
Number 2, we will traffic in sight, 2 Alpha.
Alright, and then you can switch your tanks now.
Number 2, runway 4 right, clear touch go.
Fuel pump.
4 right, clear touch and go, 2 Alpha.
Switching back to right.
Uniform current, wind 0405, left number 3027.
Got fuel pressure. Turn off the fuel pump.
Good.
Still have fuel pressure. Alright, we're basically over the top.
Yeah, they don't, so their radar only goes out 10 miles or 11 miles, so if we call them now, they're just going to say call back 2 miles.
No, I'll wait until we're 10. But I think we're safe to follow the Magenta line now. So. Frequency's not very busy right now. It's surprising.
Yeah.
I shouldn't have said that.
Yeah.
Left at the end, 29 X-ray.
Sometimes it's too eerily quiet, and then I check for radios.
Right.
1988, holding short of 4 right, ready.
Watch 1988, Falcon Tower, standby.
Okay, so I hope you heard me just say it was not very busy on the frequency right now. Let that be a lesson for you. If you're ever about to make a radio call, don't say that, at least not out loud. Don't ever say that you're amazed at how little traffic there is. So now, as you can imagine, when it was time to make my call, it was, of course, super busy on the frequency. So I had to try a couple of times, actually, to squeeze in a call to get back to Falcon through the gap. I talked about the gap in a previous episode, but it's just, between airspaces getting back into Falcon. So I made my first call quickly, but as I let go of the push-to-talk button, it was clear that the controller had been talking over me and blocking my transmission, which you can hear me immediately recognize and react to. So I knew I would have to squeeze in another call and get two-way radio communication going before I could get back into the airspace. Here you go.
Alrighty, sir. You can start to make your radio call.
Officer 1122, follow Cessna 2 miles ahead, base to final.
Following Cessna on base to final, Oxford 1122.
Ross 29 X-ray, hold short, runway 4 left.
Hold short, 4 left, 29 X-ray.
Falcon Tower, Red Rock 91 is 10 miles south inbound, full stop with Tango.
119.7, have a good day.
Dang it!
197, 29 X-ray.
For the 39 and 66 Falcon Tower, traffic Cessna on mile final, crush 4
I hate when that happens.
Taxi Delta 6, contact ground, good day.
I did it fast, too.
I know.
Nothing for right via Delta, Oxford 39, 36. Nothing 4 right via Delta, nothing 4 right, taxi via Delta 6, Delta, Oxford 39,
36, taxi via Delta 6, then contact ground.
Falcon Tower, Red Rock 91 is 9 miles south inbound, full stop Tango.
Red Rock 91, Falcon Tower, straight in runway 4 right.
Straight in for 4 right, Red Rock 91.
Oxford 1122, number 2, runway 4 right, clear to land.
See, I never should have said that the frequency was not very busy.
Yeah, now it is. Did he say 4 left or 4 right? 4 right. Okay.
4 right.
Thought I heard him say 4 left.
I'll confirm.
Falcon Tower, hook up to 38 Golf Mike with uniform on an echo ramp to close the Gecko 2.
We can do that when we're closer.
Okay.
Alright, so when we cross Chandler's airspace, Glenn will start our descent at 2,400. Because by the time we hit the Delta, they want us at 2,400.
Okay, so here's my favorite part of the recording, mostly because I like sarcasm. But if you're not super familiar with the airspace, you might not even get the sarcasm. Of course, you might not get it anyway because my jokes aren't usually very good, but at least you'll have a fighting chance. So the Class Delta airspace for Chandler has a top of 3,000 feet. So you have to be above that to stay out of their airspace. But in this case, on the chart where it depicts that top as the number 30 in the square segmented box that's on the chart, to indicate 3,000 feet, it's preceded by a minus sign, which means that the top of the airspace goes up to, but does not include 3,000 feet. This always seemed kind of silly because the bottom overhead Phoenix Class Bravo in that area starts at 4,000 feet. So you basically have 1,000 feet between the two to shoot the gap back to Falcon. But you also have that extra foot because 3,000 feet is not included in Chandler's airspace. I know it's not technically a foot probably because just 3,000 feet isn't included. So really anything below exactly 3,000 feet to the ground would be included. Anyway, the whole thing is kind of silly. So I did what I do and I made a joke of it. Sometimes people don't get me, but that's all right. My instructor warned me to watch my altitude and not get too low so I didn't wander down into Chandler's airspace accidentally. I don't remember how close we were, but it was probably at least a couple hundred feet above their airspace, and I wasn't worried especially because we still had 3,000 feet MSL that we could use. So right after that, we cleared the perimeter of the airspace and started the descent to Falcon's pattern altitude. I'll let this go all the way back down to the ground.
All right, watch your altitude. You're getting kind of close to Chandler.
We have that extra foot though. It's only 2,999.
True.
Number 2 to 4 right call center.
I'm playing.
Yeah, the extra foot. Alrighty, sir.
And number 2 aircraft, Oxford, holding
I can't tell from here, am I clear?
Yeah, you're clear now.
Okay.
And if you're always in doubt, just zoom in.
Yep, alright.
And then you can do the rest of your before landing checklist.
Number 2 Oxford, holding short, runway 4 right. What is your call sign?
Alright, before landing, fuel pump on.
Number 3 Oxford, that's now holding short.
Fuel tank, we just did it. Mixture rich. Carb heat is in. Landing light is on. Pre-landing checklist is complete.
7 miles northeast.
Beautiful.
3,900 feet. Full stop. Uniform.
Let's get down.
Make right traffic, runway 4 right.
Fast.
Right traffic 4 right, 19797.
Watch out for that Bravo.
Oxford 2477, Falcon.
I want to come right, 5 degrees, 020. There, perfect.
Oxford 1988, runway 4 right, line up and wait, traffic Cessna, crosswind.
Line up and wait, 4 right, Oxford 1988.
Alright, now you can come left, heading 010.
Continue traffic holding position.
4 right, continuing to Lima Alpha.
Oxford 122, turn right, Delta 6, contact ground, good day.
Delta 6 over ground, have a go on after 1122. Falcon Tower, Oxford 2477, holding short, runway 4 right, ready for departure.
Oxford 1988, AJ approved, runway 4 right, clear takeoff.
4 right, cleared for takeoff, Oxford 1988.
Oxford 2477, Falcon Tower, roger. Just in the future, when you pull out of the run-up area, unless ground tells you otherwise, you need to be on line frequency. I was trying to get a hold of you.
Okay, yes sir, Oxford 2477.
Alright, turn left heading 360.
Shoot out, runway 4 right, clear takeoff.
360.
36 left, 360.
Left, 360.
Red Rock 91, number 2, main center, Alpha Delta.
Inbound full stop, terminate with uniform.
Red Rock 91, number 2, follow Cessna Mayfield downwind.
Number 2 will follow Red Rock 91.
Alright, you can take your goggles off. Welcome back. There should be someone on midfield downwind, so we can slow ourselves down. Let's get us into slow flight.
Inbound full stop, terminate with uniform.
That's 139, Falcon Tower, make correction,
I don't
right
see him.
base, runway 4 right.
Right base 4 right, 21329.
I need your help here.
Oxford 3175,
Could be a Cessna.
I'm looking.
Cessna downwind to base.
On a right downwind?
Yeah, he should be
circling. 2 Alpha, turn base.
I'm just going to turn kind of a long base, is that alright?
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay. That'll give you a better view over there anyway.
Yeah.
Red Rock 91, Cessna wing up base and to your right.
We're looking for that traffic, Red Rock 91. Just put us in a slow flight, add flaps.
Oxford 3175.
There he is.
Got him.
Yep.
Right,
where?
He's about crossing whatever valve is now.
Oh, there he is.
Yeah, it's probably 200 feet.
Whatever you do, do not cross into 4 left's approach path.
I won't.
So we can add in that second notch of flaps.
91, traffic's a mile ahead of you, turning final, runway 4 right, clear to land.
Oh, alright.
Alright, we've got the traffic, Red Rock 91.
Clear to
Red
land.
Rock 91, runway 4 right, clear to land.
4 right, clear to land, Red Rock 91.
Perfect.
797, the
Good
traffic
deal.
1 moving to 12.
Okay, I've lost him.
Okay, no, you're good. Keep turning.
Okay.
Looking for traffic, negative contact, Cessna 797.
Watch out, there's another guy over there, so just stay in your approach path.
I will not go across.
Caution with your altitude, altimeter 3028, I'm showing you're indicating 2,200.
Okay, 3028, and we're showing 2,400 right now, Cessna 797.
See him landing.
797, helicopter's 12 o'clock, and
These are the
about a half
1,000
mile
footers.
westbound.
And you can start your descent.
Insight, no factor, 797, thank
Go
you.
full flaps.
I am full.
797, roger, follow
Alright, you can
Archer on a
slip
mile and a
if
half
you
final.
need to.
Oh, he's over the
Okay,
number
looking
7.
for
Yeah.
traffic as well, Cessna 797.
Oxford 2477, right, close traffic approved.
Remember how to slip?
Yeah, I know how to slip.
Alright.
I'm just not sure I need it.
All right. Oh, you do you.
You do? Okay.
You do you.
Oxygen 8, Falcon Tower, enter right.
I'll slip a little bit here.
Oh, other way. Go the other way, because there's traffic, so.
797 traffic on final in sight.
There you go.
797, number 2, runway 4 right, clear to land.
Number 2, 4 right, clear to land, Cessna 797.
Australia 175, do you have company Archer crossing in sight?
We have the Archer inside, 3175.
3175, outside the traffic, AJ is approved.
AJ approved, Oxford 3175, appreciate it.
Oh, butter. Butter. And all those flaps to help with braking.
Yep. Southbound helicopter out of case 1900.
We'll go right on Delta 6.
Looking for that helicopter 329.
A little bit more brake.
Red Rock 91, true left Delta 6, contact ground, good day.
Right on Delta 6, contact air on 91.
Hi, ground.
Come right, come right. There you go.
And that nose wheel
Falcon
is
Tower, Sky 2084, holding short of 4
crazy.
right on Bravo.
Did he say contact ground?
Yep.
2084, Falcon.
Runway 4 right, taxi
Stop
via
right
Delta, advise run complete, Oxford 5147.
All right, I'm clear.
Yep. Sick.
Fuel pump is off. Landing light is off. All right.
You're on Delta 6.
Falcon ground, Red Rock 91 is off of 4 right at Delta 6. Want to taxi to the ramp.
Red Rock 91, Falcon ground, taxi true to the ramp via Delta, right Delta 7.
Via Delta, right Delta 7, we'll taxi to the ramp, Red Rock 91.
Nice. Honey. Smooth criminal.
Ooh,
Very nice, Bill.
I've got some music in my head.
Oh, yeah. No, you should have some Frank Sinatra smoking a cigar scene in your head after that landing. Give yourself a pat on the back. That was nice.
Yeah, I greased my landing
nice.
last night, too.
Nice.
Oh, you flew with Ryan? Yeah, that's right. We were coming out as you were coming in.
That's right.
And we can finish the after landing checklist, and then we'll do the parking and secure checklist. Nice.
I did my memory items.
Good.
But I haven't done the checklist yet. All right, after landing, it's 0. Fuel pump is off. Landing light is off. Carb heat is off. All right, parking brake, we don't need it. Mixture cutoff. Magnetos, after it's done, is off. Avionics.
Okay, so that's it for the flight lesson today, but we've got the Beyond the Checkride segment right now. For this one, we're going to talk about securing the airplane. A lot of pilots who have done mostly training might not have a lot of experience going to other airports and leaving a plane overnight, or even buttoning one up nicely at home if they're flying a new airplane outside of the school, for example. So we wanted to talk about some of the things that we've learned over the years. Hope you enjoy. All right, Kent, welcome back to the Student Pilot Cast for another Beyond the Checkride. What have you got for us today?
Well, let's talk about securing your airplane when you're all done flying.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, and it's easy to miss some stuff. It's easy to just, walk away. And, if you're a student, you're probably used to kind of running into the FBO with your instructor and talking about how the flying portion went. And you might not be thinking about, well, what do I need to do to make sure that the airplane stays safe while it's unattended? It's kind of like having a little kid, right?
Yeah, and there might be an MO for your flight school that you're at. But then when you go off, start flying on your own, maybe you're in a club, maybe you're renting an airplane from somewhere else, something like that. You go on a trip and you're tying down the airplane overnight somewhere you've never been before. It's going to be different than how you trained, most likely. So there's some things to think about. And I think that's what we're going to cover today, right?
For sure. And we kind of came up with 4 scenarios here. I'm flying in the north most of the time, based in Wisconsin, so we're usually in hangars up here. It's a royal pain to get snow and ice off your airplane to go flying. So most people up here, they don't buy an airplane unless they can get a hangar. So I've got my Mooney in a hangar, and it's been in a hangar since the day I got it, like 12 years ago. previous to that, and actually even more recently, I was still in the flying club for 14 years up until 2018, and all of our airplanes were in a hangar as well, but that was a little bit different situation. That hangar was one that was pretty much run by the FBO, and there were maybe a dozen airplanes in there. So that's a little bit different of a situation. And of course, when I'm flying other places, I'm usually getting a tie down, unless, getting a hangar for a single night often costs a good percentage of what a hangar for an entire month would be. So yeah, I usually put the plane outside, and we have a really nice Bruce's cover for it. So usually lives outside on the road, so it's going to be tied down. And I think you're getting into the world of instructing, and you probably are keeping rental planes outside down there as much as you probably wish they were in an air-conditioned hangar most of the time.
Yes. But even most of our hangars aren't air-conditioned. But yeah, that's true. And out here in the Southwest, we generally have good weather. We are going to talk about some bad weather. We do get pretty violent storms sometimes in the summer and the fall, but we generally have good weather. It can be hot. And so at a lot of our airports, we see a lot of airplanes tied down, even when they're at their home airport. Sometimes it's under cover. Most people would want it covered, tie down. But there are a lot of planes that live a portion of their life tied down, just outside in the weather around here. So we don't get the snow, and we don't get, we just don't have a lot of bad weather other than those storms. So it is more common down here to see airplanes sitting outside. Makes us all a little sad, of course, but yep, that does happen.
Yeah. Well, a few things that we can kind of talk about just related to the airplane to start with. Fuel selectors. This is probably a really frequently forgotten one on Cessnas. If you leave the fuel selector on most Cessnas, your fuel can drain from one wing to the other. And even if the ramp looks level, I can almost guarantee you it's not. It really doesn't take much to start moving fuel from one wing to the other. And I know that I have forgotten to put the fuel selector in the proper position after shutting down, and you come back to the airplane later and some of your very expensive fuel is just dripping out the little tube under the wing because the opposite wing is draining into that wing. And so that's probably not what you really want to be doing with your fuel. You want to be burning that fuel, flying around having fun, right? So make sure that fuel selector's in the right place. And your airplane may have a securing checklist just in the normal procedures somewhere. Airplane manuals kind of are all over the board as far as what's in them. A lot of the older airplanes don't have that sort of thing, but something like a brand new 172, I would imagine, probably does have a securing checklist.
Yeah. And sometimes in a high wing like a Cessna, that might be putting it on either left or right, or it might be shutting it off. And I know in a lot of flight schools, that might not even be part of the checklist because those planes are flying 6-7 times a day, right? And so it may not even be part of the checklist. So you may get done with your primary training or even in more advanced training, and you've never really gotten in the habit of shutting off the fuel selector, or in a Cessna changing it to one or the other because somebody else is going to be taking it in a few minutes. But when you're out in the world beyond the check ride, that's something you definitely want to be thinking about. If the airplane's going to be sitting for a while, it really should be secured properly.
Yeah, this really does make the most difference on the last flight of the day when the plane's going to be sitting at least overnight. So it's one thing if you're in a rental that is going to be flown again right away, or at least flown again the next morning. It's an entirely different story when you've got your own airplane, or maybe you're in a club or something like that, and that plane might not get flown for a while after you fly it. So
yeah.
Another thing that I've always done, maybe you do too, I always leave my rotating beacon switch on no matter what. That way I know that if I walk away from the airplane and I see a flashing light, hey, I forgot something important. Better turn that master switch off so I'm able to fly
battery
next time
switch is on. Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so having something that it's okay to leave on is a good thing.
That's a good standard operating procedure that a lot of times you don't think about. And we are going to do one of these probably on standard operating procedures, but as it comes to securing the airplane, kind of buttoning it up for the night or for a few days, that is a good one. If you do it that same way every time, you know when you're walking away, if that beacon's on, you forgot something. You forgot something that's going to keep you from flying the next day.
Right. And then,
good one.
I think probably most of us don't use parking brakes a whole heck of a lot in small airplanes. There are occasions where you may need to. I know I have parked on some ramps where you're not going to be able to get out of a non-moving airplane if you don't put that parking brake on. If you do turn the parking brake on, a lot of FBOs will have signs available that will say things like parking brake on, do not tow, or they'll usually have one red side that says do not tow and the other one says brakes off, okay to tow. So you might be able to just grab a freebie at some point to put in your plane if you need to put the parking brake on. Now we want to start talking about making sure that airplane's not going anywhere before the next person comes along. Not really that big of a deal when you're in a hangar, but when I'm flying the Mooney around the country, I'm not going to be in a hangar most of the time unless the weather's really bad. So I need to tie it down. I know there's a lot of people who just don't have a hangar, and so they're going to be tying their plane down all the time. And so this stuff gets to be really important. And we both have stories for you about why they're important. So why don't you go ahead?
Yeah. Tying down, a couple of things that I wanted to mention. One, a lot of the airplanes I fly are tied down. I am in a club where we have a shared hangar. The FBO manages it. Kent's got a great story around that situation. But from a tie-down perspective, one thing I've seen done a couple of times, it hasn't resulted that I know of in any damage to the airplane, but it certainly could. When you are tying down an airplane, make sure that the tie-down for the wings is not behind the wings. You want the tie-downs on the wings going forward, because the tie-down on the tail is going to be going backwards. And that sort of opposition is what's going to hold it in place. If all of the tie-downs are behind the wings, they're going to be loose. They're not going to do their job. The whole thing can move backwards, and now all of a sudden they're all loose, and they can even come unhooked. Some airplanes, especially light sports and some types of airplanes, maybe don't have hooks on them that are big enough for those big steel ends on webbing to go through. And so this is where this story comes in. My wife's uncle is also a pilot, and he has a light sport airplane that he ties down at the airport that I fly out of. And unfortunately, last September, Falcon Field had a crazy freak microburst come through. And a year before that, the same thing happened at Chandler Airport, which is where I did my primary training. It's just 10 nautical miles south or so. When that happened 2 years ago, that might actually have technically been a tornado, which doesn't happen down here very often, but it was really bad. And a lot of airplanes were lost in both of those storms. Sometimes it wasn't the fault of the tie-down. In some cases, it was actually pulling the anchors out of the concrete or out of the asphalt, which is buried in concrete. And there's not much you can do as a pilot about that. If the tie-downs themselves are not anchored well enough, not much you can do. But in my uncle's case, he was under a covered tie-down, and that cover saved his airplane, we're pretty sure. But because his light sport airplane had very small hook areas for the tie-down, he couldn't get the end hooks of his webbing down. The webbing held just fine, so he had to use carabiners to hook through the hook in the airplane, but unfortunately he didn't use carabiners that were really actually rated for heavy-duty use. And so those carabiners failed under pressure. They literally just broke apart, and his airplane was turned loose, and it wedged sideways, tail down, under the big heavy-duty awnings that were over the metal awnings that were over the top of these covered tie-downs. And if it weren't for that, his airplane would have been a total loss. And it almost was anyway. His airplane is composite, and it damaged both wings and the tail. But luckily, nothing struck the prop, the engine, there was no damage to the spinner, fuselage, everything was fine. There was just damage on the tail and the two wings. And so he was able to convince the insurance company to fix it instead of totaling it. So they ordered new wings from the factory and a new elevator. And he's getting those replaced, but it has taken that whole year for that to happen. And so those replacements are going to be happening this week, actually. I guess it's 11 months after it happened. So it's important to tie these things down properly. And if you're going to have to use something along that chain of tie down that is not part of the tie down, make sure it's heavy duty. So cautionary tale for everybody out there. These storms can happen, and when they happen, you want to make sure your airplane is properly tied down. A lot of airplanes made it through that storm just fine out in the storm, but a few were lost, and a few like this one were heavily damaged that has been, taking a year to repair. So something to be thinking about.
I've been hearing a lot of people saying chains really aren't a good idea at all either. I don't know if that's a popular thing down in your area. I've honestly only seen chains at an airport once, I believe. South
it's
Dakota.
Pretty common. It's pretty common down here. But like I said, I think the most common these days is nylon webbing. That has become one of the most common. They're lightweight. They don't damage the airplane if the steel ends might, the hooks on the end, but the webbing itself, of course, is soft, and they're extremely strong if you get the right kind. Yeah. And they do have a little give to them. So, yeah.
Okay. Well, time for my cautionary tale about an airplane. And this is actually an airplane that Bill and I have flown in together, one of our old club planes, 271 Golf.
My first flight into Oshkosh was in this airplane.
Yes, that's right. I think it was, maybe 2008? And I had been in Oshkosh already and set up my campsite, and then I flew down to Milwaukee and picked you up, and we flew the Fisk arrival into Oshkosh. And
later that same year, we picked up Troy Wisman and did it again.
Yeah. Yeah, so I know I did at least 3 arrivals that year.
That's right.
But yeah, this one was particularly sad for me because I have about 500 hours in that airplane and had some really great adventures in her, and the plane was totaled after this. But basically we had a guy who had flown out somewhere in New York State, came back, and there it is on the screen. Yeah, he came back and he called up the FBO, and this was a shared hangar situation that was all managed by the FBO. So the pilot called up the FBO and said, "Hey, I'm back. I'm, ready for the plane to be fueled and put away." And they came down and they fueled the plane, completely topped it off, and then didn't put it away for some reason. Forgot about it. It's not their main ramp. So I guess easy thing to do, I suppose. But for whatever reason, they left it there and they never came back to put it away. And overnight there was a storm that came through that had straight line winds of 60 knots or so, and they were kind of from back into the side, and so the tail lifted up and went over on, basically one main came off the ground and then went over on the prop and the spinner and flopped on its back. And a high wing airplane that does that is not going to be having a good day. So the struts were bent, the wing was flattened out, so it had no dihedral, quite a bit of damage to the skins on the top of the wing. The vertical tail was crushed. In fact, the whole aft section there was kind of buckled. So yeah, that plane was totaled, unfortunately. And at this point, now the club forces everybody to tie down the plane unless they are standing there and watching the FBO put it away while they're still there, just so we don't have another incident like that. So something to be aware of if you're relying on someone else to put your plane away or tie it down or whatever is, sometimes things get busy and things don't happen. So make sure you stay responsible for your own airplane.
I've thought about this quite a bit because in the club I'm in right now, we're in the same situation. We have a bigger hangar that's got multiple airplanes in it, all of ours plus a couple of others. And when we return it, the FBO handles putting it away. What we're required to do is chalk it and call for them to fill it and put it away. But we're not required to stay there, and I've thought about this often. If I know there's a storm approaching or it's windy when I land, I'm not going to walk away from that airplane. I'm going to go find somebody from the FBO, or I'm going to call them and I'm going to say, hey, I'm waiting here. I'm going to put this airplane away with you. So, yeah, it's something to think about. And if you're traveling and you're going somewhere and you're relying on an FBO to put it away, yeah, if it's a beautiful night, no storms in the area, maybe you just leave it to them. But if there's any chance, if it's windy, if you're worried at all about it, do it with them,
Sure.
Yeah, that's a sad picture. Seeing that thing turned upside down like that.
It is. Well, let's talk about a few other things. Once your airplane is actually tied down, what else do you do with your airplanes once they're tied down, Bill?
Well, one of the first things, whether it's tied down or chalked ready to go in the hangar, I always wipe it down, get all the bugs and grime off, especially the leading edges. Not only is it courteous, but that stuff it'll eat away at your paint. So even if you know you're going to be the next one to fly, it's still a good idea to get those leading edges especially clean, because there's going to be bugs all over them. One thing people don't think about that's a leading edge on the Cessnas, I was thinking about this because I just did this the other day. I flew one of the 172s in our club, and I always make a habit of opening up the windows, because on those Cessnas, the side windows open up and everybody taxis with those open, right? I mean, when it's hot, like around here, those are always open while you're taxiing. And between the taxiing itself and the stream from the propeller, you're throwing bugs into the sides of those windows. And most people don't realize that, but there's going to be bugs all over the leading edge of those window sills when they're open. And if you close the airplane when you button it up and you go to wipe it down, you're not going to see them. So open up those windows, wipe those down, so you don't have bugs sitting on those windows for months at a time because you never noticed they were there. So something to be thinking about. So wiping it down is one of them.
Definitely. And, the bugs come off a whole lot easier if you get them off right away before they do harden up. And yeah.
Yep.
Well, even in a hangar, there might be some things that you still want to do for securing. We were talking about putting chocks on the airplane in the hangar, and that's a good idea. We just leave ours on the tug, but that has an automatic
the same effect
brake that keeps it secured. So yeah, it is basically like a really, really big, heavy, expensive pair of chocks. We also have battery minders, and if you're an airplane owner, I definitely recommend having these. Most of the time, a battery is going to last you maybe 3 years. My airplane has 2 batteries on it. They're switched, so they're separate. But one of them's 10 years old, one of them's 15 years old, and both of them are still good. And that's thanks to the battery minders. They actually are able to break up sulfur deposits inside the battery and get those solids back into solution and keep that battery lasting for a good long time. So, not something you might care about for a car battery that you can go to the local parts store and replace yourself for $40 or something like that. But I know that even 10 years ago, the last time I replaced an airplane battery, it was $500. And so being able to run that battery, 3, 4, 5 times longer than I otherwise would have been able to, man, those
pretty
battery
incredible.
Paid for themselves long ago. But you do need to plug them in, make sure you got 3 green lights on there, and then plug them into the wall as well, because I know that once I accidentally was in a hurry, plugged them into the airplane, saw my green lights, got distracted and left, and well, they do suck the airplane battery dry if you don't plug them into the wall. So
has the opposite effect.
Right. Not exactly what you want to happen. But anyway, so if you have something like that, go ahead and plug those in. For those of us in the Great White North here, we have engine heaters that we plug in whenever it starts getting cold. I pretty much plug them in anytime it's going to be below 50 degrees, except for overnight. There is, of course, a whole debate in the aviation community about whether it's a good idea to leave your heaters plugged in all the time, but even though I have one that heats both the oil sump and all the cylinders, it can take 4 to 8 hours depending on the outside temperature to heat up that giant block of metal under the cowl. So yeah, we generally leave them in all winter, plugged in all the time.
Now, we do use engine heaters down here, but it's called the sun, so we don't worry too much about turning it off and on. But I honestly know nothing about engine heaters because I've never used one personally. We don't use them down here really, but I have heard things about them, and I hear that they have some now that if you have Wi-Fi at your hangar, you can connect to them and turn them on remotely, the day before or hours before your flight, so you don't have to be at the hangar to do it. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and that's actually not a function of the engine heater. Those are these little outlet boxes that you can buy, and that's what you plug the engine heater into. And yeah, then they're normally off, and you can remotely switch them on.
I told you I knew nothing about engine heaters.
Well, there are some engine heaters that they only heat the sump, and on those, you should not plug them in all the time, because what happens is you keep your oil nice and warm, and all the water vapor, stays out of the oil or comes out of the oil even, and then it gets into the cold top end of the engine and condenses, and that causes things to rust, and you really don't want that to happen. So definitely, if you have one of those, don't leave that one plugged in all the time. But we have one from Rife, and it has bands around all the cylinders that are heated, so there is some heat distributed around the engine. And even though we're in the hangar, we do also leave cowl plugs in and a blanket over the top of the cowl, and so that helps to keep a lot of that heat inside the cowling and just keep a real consistent level of heat throughout the engine, so that none of the engine is below the dew point. That's the thing that's really important. So maybe we'll settle some debates there, but probably not. I'm sure there's still some people who will disagree with me. But, up here when it gets cold, we need to make sure that our oil is able to flow and it's not this sludge that it can turn into when it's cold, because you want that oil to be protecting your engine right away as soon as you're starting up. And if it's really cold, the oil does not flow so well, and 90% of your engine wear happens during your startup. So you definitely want to make sure that you're not making that any worse.
Let's
good. See what else.
Good. That's definitely an area that I don't know much about, but there is one more thing I wanted to add. And when we talk about SOPs, standard operating procedures, at some point, we'll probably talk about this, but I think it's a great idea to make one of your standard operating procedures, before you do your pre-flight, or even right after you're completed the pre-flight, to walk around your airplane, kind of look at it all the way around. But I think it's a good idea to do that when you're walking away from the airplane as well. At the end of a flight, you buttoned her up, and just before you walk out of the hangar or you walk away from the tie down, just walk around the airplane one more time, take a look at it, make sure that you haven't left a baggage door open, or there's a seatbelt hanging out of the door, or any number of things. You left your your windshield wipe solution sitting on the horizontal stabilizer or whatever it may be, you just take one last look at it and just make sure it is actually buttoned down the way you think it is. That's probably another good standard operating procedure.
Absolutely. And I like what you said about looking back when you're walking away from the airplane as well, because there are certain things that you're just not going to see when you're standing right next to the airplane. But then you get
the forest through the trees problem,
away, and you look at it again, and then you go, "Oh, wait a minute, that doesn't look right." And so, yeah, that's excellent advice.
Exactly.
Now, one thing I'm curious about: do you ever open up your oil dipstick after you're done flying?
I do not. I have never done that.
So that's a thing that we do also with the Mooney.
Interesting.
With something like a rental that's going to fly again right away, maybe no big deal. But really what I'm looking to do is to let some of that extra water vapor out of the engine entirely. So we actually leave the oil dipstick open on our engine. And, in the winter, I'll throw the blanket over that. But, we leave that open and just let the engine vent. There are some products available that will actually dry your engine out. One that I think is really good it's called the DryBot. Comes from the same people that make the Dynavibe prop balancer. But there's some other ones out there, and they have various methods of drying air out and then pumping it through your engine. It's something I've thought about a lot, but I haven't actually pulled the trigger on yet myself. But yeah, there's at least one school of thought that thinks that that's a good idea to let some of the water vapor out of the engine after a flight. So that's a thing that we do too, and I just learned that from a random experienced pilot at an airport somewhere along the way. It's not something that I think is very common at all.
Not only had I not ever done that, I hadn't even ever heard of that. Well, that was a good one. We thought that was going to be quick, but we actually had a couple of stories, and it just, there's quite a bit to talk about there, button up the airplane. So appreciate that. That was a great topic, Kent. Thank you.
Well, thank you. It's always nice to sit here and yak about airplanes. We can definitely make a short story long sometimes.
We're good at that. All right. Well, we'll catch you next time then.
All right. We'll see you.
All right. Again, we hope you enjoyed that segment and maybe learned something from it. If you didn't learn anything from it, it means you've got some experience. So you should let us know about some of that experience. Send in a story about when you learned something important beyond the check ride so we can feature that in a future segment. So that'll do it for today's episode. I was still happy to be progressing, and it wasn't even stressful yet because I hadn't gotten into the meat of instrument flying. And the check ride, which wasn't scheduled yet, seemed so far away, I had no stress about it. I hadn't even taken the written test yet, and wouldn't have passed it at that point yet anyway. I mean, I hadn't even decided only a week or two before that I was going to start training again, so it was all happening pretty fast. I knew if I didn't stop and look around a little bit, I might miss the whole training. All right, points for knowing the paraphrased reference there, the movie, but it was true. It was all coming at me pretty fast, but still manageable at this point. I was excited to start learning more about the NAS, the approaches, various techniques, the rules, this hold thing I'd always heard about. I mean, my attitude at the time was, let it all come. I was ready. Well, at least I thought I was.
The music for today's episode is To Be an Angel by the Canadian band Uncle Seth. You can get more information and subscribe to the podcast feeds on the web at studentpilotcast.com. Remember, any instruction that you hear in this podcast was meant for me and for me alone in the situation I was in at the time. Please do not try to blindly apply anything you see or hear in this podcast to your own flying without thinking it through on your own completely. If you have questions about any aspect of your flying, please consult a qualified CFI.